everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Keep Arizona Blue, where we get into all things politics over a cup of coffee. My name is Ava Campbell, and I'm so excited to be joined here by Pita Juarez. Pita is a climate communications consultant with over a decade of experience in film, digital media, and advocacy. She works at the intersection of climate and justice, uplifting underrepresented communities and ensuring that their voices shape the national narrative. She has supported nonprofits, political candidates, small businesses, and advocacy organizations in crafting campaigns that drive policy change and public engagement. In 2022, she was named a GRISP 50 Fixer for Arts and Media, and her work has been featured in Politics Unplugged and Connect to Arizona. So, Pita, thank you again so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Ava.
Yes, a little background. I've had the pleasure of working with Pita for Mom's Clean Air Force here in Arizona, and I can say with certainty that she is an incredible woman. So, I'm super excited to ask you these questions today.
All right.
We like to start off each episode with a fun question being, what mug did you bring? So I'll start off and then we'd love to hear about yours. So I brought this yellow polka dot mug that I made with my mom, like honestly, like a decade ago at Burst of Butterflies in Arizona. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's a pottery place. It's super cool.
Cute.
All right, let's hear about yours.
Well, I don't have a mug, but I do have one of my water bottles from this one is Chispa, Texas, where I worked at. And I have all of the national parks. So I got little that I visited Yosemite, Glacier, Tonto, and so they keep going. And so I hope that, this one's like the one that's not like too political. It's just national parks.
Okay, I love it. All right, let's jump straight into it. So, you have been doing your work for quite some time, but I want to know about what first drew you into climate advocacy and political work. Was there a specific moment that set you on this path, or did it kind of call to you?
I mean, I started my career in journalism here in Arizona, and there was a lot going on in the political climate. And it was really tough being, like a really young reporter reporting and not being biased about what we were seeing. At the time, there was a law called SB 1070. And this law, you were pretty much, you could be racially profiled just by the color of your skin. And so I took a toll of like, just being very conflicted with myself of if I wanted to tell one story or there was this really beautiful movement happening right in front of me and a lot of young people, a lot of brown and black young people who were leading this movement. And so I was conflicted in of like I wanted to tell that story without any parameters of media, mainstream media, which is really where I was coming from. And so I started working closely with some of those young folks who are now, very long, great friends of mine. And I started working in advocacy communications. So started really telling our stories the way that we wanted to tell our stories. At the time, especially here in Arizona, a place of, so close to the border. So immigration has always been a hot topic, as it is now. Again, here we are. But we started really narrating our own story in terms of leaders rather than at the time mainstream media was really victimizing young brown and black people who were really fighting for their parents, for themselves. This is when all of Joe Arpaio, who is this prolific person in our history of Arizona as this terrible sheriff who was pretty much allowing these terrible laws to happen and encouraging it. And so that's how I started in immigration. And I really loved my time there. I got to work with a lot of young people. I got to work with a lot of media on the other side. And then we got to really be creative about how we were doing social media, about how we were doing short documentaries. We were having media trainings. So it was a really cool time in my life. And that's kind of how I started working in political communications.
Okay, I had no idea about any of that. So I learned more already. That's super amazing work. And what you said about, immigration obviously is now like more prevalent than ever before, and it's crazy that that's where you started. So yeah. And then okay, so I know I mentioned this in the bio, but you are a climate communications consultant and then also a filmmaker that highlights important community issues. But can you tell us a little bit more about your role in each of those spaces and what the specifics or the day-to-day look like?
Yeah, I think, from that immigration, there was so many folks working in that. I always wanted to work in climate, but I really saw that as a very far, not attainable. From in my community, I saw climate as a very white environmental and environment too. And I always thought, like, how do I get into this issue that I've always wanted to work in? And I started working in climate. There was a ballot initiative in Arizona, Prop 127, clean energy for a healthy Arizona. And we were trying to pass 50% by 2030, which 50% in a state like Arizona is like nothing. It's the crumbs. And we lost that ballot initiative to a monopoly of APS who spent so much money trying to fight this. And it was devastating. But I learned a lot. I learned about how do we tell stories that are, about rural farmers. How do we bring in nurses to be like, hey, this is a public health issue. It's not just climate. How do we bring in, moms who are concerned about their children's future, who children are just outside going outside their door and they're getting sick, they're getting chronic asthma, they're getting diabetes. And that really, got me thinking of really, if I think back into like the immigration work that I was doing and here now, it doesn't really change, right? They're all interconnected. When we think about climate, when we think about choice, when we think about all these things, all of it really is connected. And I think that the people who are always at the forefront of a lot of these attacks are going to be low income people of color. And so for me, talking about climate and being a climate communicator means of like really, creating and connecting the dots for people so that they can see that all of it isn't interconnected. And so we started making films about people who want to go outside and they want to explore public lands, but they're not able to because they're scared because they're DACA. We started talking about what does civic engagement mean within climate. What is, how people started their career in immigration rights. Across the country. We did this in New Mexico. We did this in Texas. We did this in Nevada, where a lot of it is like young people. That's why I love working with you guys, right? You get it, you know it, and you want to tell everybody about it. And they were, bringing in their stories of their abuelas, about how they were so connected with nature. They were bringing in the stories of their parents, how, a lot of the people who are immigrating are sometimes because of climate change. I'm from Guatemala, and in a place like Central America where it's so green and it rains, and we think about it like, oh wow, there's a lot of differences that I've seen in the past traveling back to my country, and it's because of the climate and because our land is changing. And so being able to put that into a film where people can see it and they can understand it and it's attainable and it's relatable is something really special to me that I can do with the skills that I learned in school, that I learned as a journalist.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love hearing about your work. And, climate work is important anywhere, but especially here in Arizona, where, so many residents are feeling the real effects of extreme heat. And I love how you use your passion for storytelling and filmmaking as a way to advocate for these issues. Politics across the board. Obviously, we have our midterm elections. I'm curious, how do you see the political landscape here in Arizona evolving when it comes to climate advocacy, or are there any specific policy challenges that you're currently focused on addressing in this year?
I mean, there's a lot at the federal level, obviously, because of this administration. We just talked about this week within our coalition, about what does the EPA and the endangerment findings mean? Something that was put in place to protect our planet, to protect our public health. And it's really unfortunate that we have an administration that doesn't believe or doesn't care. They care more about billionaires than they care about children or you, or, like they know they're gonna die, right? So it's like, well, I'd rather be rich in this lifetime, but I don't care about anybody else. And so at the federal level, there's so many things that we're constantly fighting, but I am hopeful because in Arizona, we came and all these folks got fired up because of the immigration, landscape and the politics that were happening. But now it's really created all of these coalitions, see so many people involved in the environmental coalition is really cool to see. It's not just Sierra Club anymore, and I love Sierra Club and I love Sandy. But now you have, the Chispas, you have other folks who, like Mi Familia Vota, who now they're doing environmental justice work. And I think that in this work, we need everybody. People ask me like, how do I get involved in environment? And I'm like, come on in, like you guys did it, right? It's like it's talking to media, it's sharing your stories, it's testifying, like whatever way that you can volunteer and get involved. I think this is the time to do it. And then locally, I think, you're right. And we here in Arizona, we get the brunt of like water, extreme heat. It's not even March and it was 90 degrees today. And then also, our beautiful public lands, but now we're seeing more and more fires in northern Arizona, which if you drive there and you see that, it's really, really sad to see. And so I think we could be the state that could be leading on a lot of this. But unfortunately, our local politics here, we come to a wall because they also want to be more on the side of billionaires and not on the side of people. Like think about how this was a short film that we did, and it was like the kid went outside and they rode their bike, and immediately they had like a layer of oil on their forehead, and that's just like something that you can visibly see. Imagine what those lungs look like.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
I was
really
gonna
scary and
ask
really
you.
sad.
I mean, you kind of just touched on what I was about to ask you, which was about, people who are interested in pursuing work in environmental justice. I know you mentioned earlier when you were first navigating the space, it felt, um, I don't know, almost like limited. But you just mentioned that now there are all these different coalitions, and it's just about finding the right one for you and joining them. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add to that. Um,
I mean, I'm always looking for voices and stories, right? We want to share them. We had a phone call today with Mark Kelly's office, and they say, bring those stories to us. We want to hear them. We want to tweet them. We want to tell them. We want to, add them to one of our speeches. And so people have stories. The thing with environment and climate, I think that we need to really um, think about how do we not talk so much policy, but like everyday things that people are going through, right? Like affordability because your electricity bill is too high. Because you guys did this amazing story last year about like, hey, like now sports, like I got to do it in the morning, right? Or like I fainted because I was just, at tryouts or whatever sports. So like those things, people are like, oh my God, me too.
yeah.
So I'd say, if you want to reach out to me, there's a place within the coalition for everyone. And I'm happy to, bring folks into whatever it is where they see themselves being a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I got involved. I just saw you guys online and I went to one of the meetings and I was listening.
I
That is
know.
very relatable and I'd love to be a part of it. And you're extremely welcoming. So thank you so much. Okay, so to wrap it up, you are the expert on outdoor activities. I see you all the time on social media. Do you have any recommendations on hiking spots, trails, or any other outdoor destinations here in Arizona that our viewers could check out?
I mean, there's so many. Really, it could be going out to the park and
Yeah.
walking, right? But I mean, the my mom hikes every single day. She's almost 70, and she hikes
Wow.
every single day at 5 in the morning. I cannot keep up with her. She does Payascoa, and then if you're a really hardcore Camelback, it really just depends on where you live. But I would say, in Arizona, one of the things that I love about my state is just like all the beauty around it, whether that's the Grand Canyon. One of the most beautiful places in the world in our backyard is Antelope Canyon, and people who live here have never been there before. Just get out and just do it. But again, it could be something small and it could be something like, I hiked the Grand Canyon in one day, and that was the craziest thing on my body and also my
Oh my gosh, I
emotions.
can imagine. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us here today and all the amazing work that you do.
Thank you, Ava, and keep doing amazing work. I'm so, so proud that these groups exist and that you guys are doing such great work. I really believe that young people get it. I'm just excited for the next generation. So.
Thank you.